So, what is being healthy and why? This is a weekly live stream every Friday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time in the United States, starting in Los Angeles, but we have hosts from around the world and specifically two countries, the UK and the US. So, one of the things that I wanted to share with you today is the power of transformation. Why the power of transformation? Because everything we do in life is either by rote, which most of us do, which means a survival technique, that's a survival technique, or we actually develop rituals which serve us on very deep levels. What the Being Healthy series, and when I say series, the Being Healthy live stream, also the Being Healthy book, and the Being Healthy course. It's a three-part trifecta transformational tool for you to really look at what's working in your life and celebrate it. And just know that you are the catalyst for a life that is so well worth living that you actually wake up every morning and you enhance your experience every day by the tools you'll get here on the live stream, by the tools you'll get here on the course, and by the tools you'll get from the book. It's all about giving people tools so they can really enter into their lives, not just enhance their lives, but actually uplift themselves to a level that they felt before that they could never achieve or that wasn't even possible. And that's what this is about. So we're going to be getting a lot of different things to help you, from recipe books, recipes. For example, my Elegantly Raw Doreet's coconut recipes, because I'm a coconut person. I just love coconuts. And that is one of the things that we want to give you as a thank you, are these books and these recipes. So both myself and my co-hosts on the show, the Being Healthy live stream, we have several different gifts for everyone who partakes in a transformational lifestyle. We want to encourage you to really and truly begin the powerful work of transformation. What does that really mean? Well, we're going to be giving you tools that will actually help you if you feel like too much is going on in your life or just in life in general. If you feel that your experience of life is full of chaos, if all you see is the chaos around you or internal chaos, or if you feel that you're being pulled in different directions that you really do not wish to go in, and that itself is a sign for you to start decluttering your life. And that's what I mean by transformation, is how we start decluttering our life from the things that no longer work for us, and we begin to replace them with the parts of ourselves that we have hitherto unexplored, and that will now begin to see that life is full of bounty, of truth, of healing, and exhilaration. So, what I'm going to be doing is actually showing you how to declutter your mind, how to declutter all the pain in your heart and make room for what really works. And because if your mind and your heart are not decluttered, your home will be very cluttered. So eventually we're going to be teaching you to how to declutter your home, but that's just the natural effect of decluttering the mind and the heart. You're going to be learning how to let go of the heaviness that is weighing you down in your life. And you're going to be learning how to simplify your life in a very significant way. And I thank Maria DeFilo for this actual, what I see on the screen right now, this poster on the screen, because this is exactly what the course, the live stream, of the book is about. So you're also going to be learning things like we should be choosing, when we declutter in our lives, what we want to keep in our lives, what definitely is working for us, and not what we want to get rid of. So that's what I see as the work of being healthy, is that we're working on choosing what we want to keep in our lives, not what we want to get rid of. Because when we choose what we want to keep, we actually keep much fewer things than we thought we would. If you try to get rid of things in your life, usually come to an impasse, because that's not where the magic lies. It lies in what we actually choose to keep in our lives. And just by doing that, just by making that choice alone, we'll find that you really will want to get rid of a lot of things, but not because you or people or experiences in your life, but not because that's your goal. Your goal is to keep what works. So you can't keep everything, obviously, because then you'll have nothing. Because if you have too much, then you're just overwhelmed. But you have to let some things go so you can make room for the things that are going to really uplift you and bring you into another version of yourself that you've not yet explored. And that's the point of being healthy. You see, the reason why being healthy, BEING, and not be healthy, is because it's a constant process. It's a process of letting go, of getting unattached to things, results, and outcomes, and instead just enjoying what is. So, this was somebody wrote this, and if my entire life and point of view and identity have been built on a false foundation, confronting that false foundation would mean destroying it and rebuilding a new foundation from the ground up. I have no idea how to go about this. I have no idea how to go about life without doing it in the shadow of my mother, without my every move being dictated by her wants, her needs, and her approval. A lot of people feel this way. If you are feeling this way, and I'm going to reread this again, because that if you feel this way, you're in the right place. You're in the right place for the live stream. You're in the right place for the book. You're in the right place for the course. And if my entire life and point of view and identity have been built on a false foundation, confronting that false foundation would mean destroying it and rebuilding a new foundation from the ground up. But if you have no idea how to do this or to go about doing it, you're in the right place. So if you feel I have no idea how to go about life without doing it in the shadow of my mother, without my every move being dictated by her wants, her needs, and her approval, then absolutely you're in the really proper place, the fitting place for you to be. Because through the course and through the actual book, which you can find and anywhere that books are sold, and also through changing your diet, you'll be actually learning how to make foods that will enrich your life and make meals like this, that very formalized, because you deserve and are worth the time of creating a dish that's appetizing, that's very artistically pleasing to you and to your digestive system. So if you look at this, you'll see that all the foods here are actually uncooked. They're in their natural state from nature. And then you're going to be learning how to serve this up with a dip. You can see the dip here that is so enticing and so pleasing. You won't even realize as you crunch down on this food that it's uncooked. You're going to be changing your diet so your digestion will soar. You're going to be making meals like this. This is what it means to have a transformation. You've got to change things around so that what occupies your mind is no longer how you're going to get through the day or through the minute, but the joy and the beauty of being alive. You're going to be learning how to make foods like this. So instead of rice, for example, you're going to be making, which is a grain, which most people are actually very, very not allergic to, but actually have a very strong response to, because it's like glue in the body. So if you feel stuffed and overwhelmed when you eat, we're going to be teaching you how to eat lighter, but also make it look and very so pleasing that all of your five sight, sound, all of your senses, your taste, your sight, your sound, your touch, your texture, your smells will be totally enriched and enlightened. you'll be given a book, a free book, when you sign up for the course that's called 10 Myths That Prevent Us from Being Healthy and Fully Alive. And you can also there's also a course called Your Life Reimagine, where you begin to reimagine your life on a whole different basis. And you're going to start transforming your meals so that your refrigerator looks this way. You begin to learn about things like the Buddha's hand. How many of you know about the Buddha's hand and how absolutely delicious this is to add into your meals? Absolutely incredible. You're going to be learning meals when you go this path of transformation that will awaken your senses, where you actually look forward to having breakfast. That's like this cantaloupe juice. I'm going to be teaching you how to make meals that are just pleasing to the eyes, but every one of the senses. So when you crunch on it, you can hear it. When you actually taste it, you can actually taste nature and taste life. So why? Because out of suffering, you can emerge as the strongest soul that you are. And the most massive characters in life are always seared with scars. This is so true. You're going to be learning how to eat differently, how to make different choices, how to actually celebrate who you are, and the meals that you're making will become a joy to do rather than a chore, where mealtime becomes something that really takes on a whole different hue, a whole different aroma, a whole different sense of self. So you're going to be learning, for example, how to have a raw vegan cheeses on a cheese platter where you don't feel sick and tired and exhausted afterwards, learning how to make meals that are so enticing and so rapturous that you cannot wait for your next meal. But in the meantime, you do wait because you know that that's what the digestion expects and needs and desires, is for you to wait between meals before you add another one. You're going to be learning to make meals like this that satisfy all the senses and everything else that you do. You're going to be learning about so much of yourself. For example, like failure gives me strength. Pain was my motivation, was what Michael Jordan said. So failure if you failed before, you won't fail this time because you already have been strengthened enough now. And the pain that you feel right now while you're here is what's going to be your motivation. So you're going to be learning about also full moon and what the full moon actually gives us. So what do we learn from the full moon? It can be part of our transformation process because the full moon affects our physical and emotional states. So it affects moodiness, fatigue, feeling low energy, feeling that you're constantly getting headaches and migraines, a lot of sleeplessness at nights, anxiety during the day, irritability with yourself and with others, nervousness on many different levels where you never were nervous before. The full moon also regulates the menstrual cycle and everything to do with water on Earth. If you go to the beach at the time, you'll see the waves are different, and it's incredible to watch the effect of the full moon on water and anything that's liquid. It's also a great time for you to, if you're going to be having urgent cardiac surgery, to have that. It's been proven. And it's a good time to start a body cleanse. And also, that's when the parasites become more active, which is why I usually, when people are wanting to do a parasite cleanse, I suggest they wait for a full moon and then we do it then. So, welcome to our co host, Pete. Pete, I very much look forward to seeing you here today. And how are you? And how would you describe transformation?
Oh, how would I describe transformation? Give me a bit more of a link on that,
How
Doreet.
would yourself describe a transformation? What would the description, if somebody said to you, I've been hearing and seeing that you're always talking about transformations. What exactly is that?
Okay. In terms of, I sort of do run a bit of a story that I feel like I've transformed. I had 4 different lives this life, should I say? So drastic transformation in terms of the food and the journey I've taken. It's not just the food; it's a whole holistic approach to it. in terms of other protocols. And as you take one step, what I truly realize, if you don't take a step, you never see beyond that step. So you are in this limited reality. And it's like, if you don't do the work, you'll never receive. So honestly, I took steps and like, oh my gosh, so many more doors. That really, I'm going to say, tripped me out on my early days, because you can be so set in your reality and think practically majority of people, me anyway, think very similar. And then you recognize that by taking steps, from me, and I do see with other people taking them through certain journeys, through certain fears, pains, etc., that it's amazing. It's like the fear false evidence appearing real. Jump into that, jump the hurdles, and then it's just like keep jumping, and you just experience, or I have experienced, amazing transformations. Not saying it's all easy, however, we work with that program, you work with that mind, and you can get comfortable with a certain another step and not realize that you've just got used to that vibration or energy or that way of being. And then in retrospect, you might see old friends and they're just either blown away. Well, what's happened to you? Or etc. etc. And then that reconfirms it if you need reconfirming or validation for that. So transformation has been a massive one with the food awareness, and again, use the word decluttering the body. It's like MOT in the body. We MOT cars, service cars, machines, washing machine, boilers. But do we ever, service our vessel, our vehicle that we incarnate in, we are in, So we are kind of, let's just say, a bit behind on that one. But transformation for me, and I've seen in so many people, taking them through different fears or anxieties, transform, and then the work is sustaining that vibration, sustaining that potentially new you. How do we do it? That's where the tools, which you've expressed, other people have expressed, come in. The protocols, the tools, the way to really step into that new transformed you. I would say it's more our birthright in terms of recognizing all that high. People take different stimulants for different highs, and I can kind of sit and converse with them and just tell them, well, I've done that through breath work or playing my didge constantly back in the day in circles for 2-3 hours, knowing what I'm doing, not to stop, and experiencing so many amazing, let's just say, insights and tangible feelings in the body. So, the big one there, I would say, sustaining it. I hear people doing different workshops and different, whether it's shadow work, constellation work. What I mean by shadow work, constellation work, let's just say in terms of doing groups that's going into their releasing potential trauma, opening up to certain areas that they are affected by, whether generally we project on, our closest, and mum, dad, etc. So that's what I mean by the level of meaning, constellation or shadow work. So that kind of comes to the surface. So it's no wonder people won't say they don't want to transform, but do have a story about anything that is going to kind of clear open and bring to the surface certain buried fears, memory. So subconsciously we all know the more we clear out the way, clear our body, we have more access to we have more access to knowing more, should I say, and sensing more. So subconsciously we avoid certain things that's going to bring up past tense experiences. So it's really wise and very, should I say, transformative to kind of go into that really, and allow that to go express and come out, so we can move on really, and be a better person, be, hopefully working on the path of being more compassionate, more loving. And this is where all the animal, dairy, and you start seeing the other exploitations in life. So the transformation, there's been many transformations, so I can go on for more, but I can express more in a bit really. Yeah, and they're not all nice experiences, or so-called nice. Me now, I look back, and you can get three types of people really. Some people who just don't want to talk about it. You could say that could be more the older generation. Some people who want to go on about it all the time, like a record, and just feed on it. And then some people who truly have moved through it and can clearly, honestly talk about these topics of trauma and whatever they are, because they have really accepted and embraced it and released it. And which one am I? I'm going to say more to the accepted a lot of lots of things. And I can get into some beautiful conversations about the most could seem horrific thing, but not in a say egotistical way or anything like that. But I kind of miss them truthisations, because they're very real, and there's an energy around that, really, around the truthisations we have. You can just feel the energy, as I might be talking about it, or the other person expressing it. There's not a heavy weight. It's just, this is what I experienced from my sister's death. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going nuts. And then I'll express on, not be considerate or compassionate to the other person's feeling, but however, to bring in an experience of that I have had. So transformation, I've had many transformations, and look forward to many more of a transformation, and keep that flowing in my life, to be honest.
Thank you, Pete. So I'd like to make a differentiation right now between change and transformation. And this is in keeping with what Pete brought up about how do you sustain the change. See, transformation is not change. So if I want to change, for example, every morning, instead of getting up and eating a breakfast of fried foods and eggs and bacon and meat, and I want to change over to eating instead every morning a bowl of fruits. And these are, of course, persimmons, and also we have your jujube. So if you would want to make this change, you can make it. The question is, will you persevere with it? And as Pete was alluding to, will you sustain it? Will you keep it? My answer is, this is the difference between change and transformation. If you go through a real transformation, this will not be an issue. This will be automatic. It will be something that just is pure delight for you to do, and in which to take place every morning. You'll wake up just absolutely loving being alive and wanting to continue on this path. But transformation requires that you're willing, and as Pete did allude to this, that you're willing also to let go of certain things, certain outcomes, certain behavior patterns, certain feelings. And what I'm asking people to do when they make changes is, do not make them for the wrong reason. If you make them for a reason that's nothing to do with you, but just to impress somebody else, or because you want to be one of the people in that group, or it looks enticing to you, and you decide you're going to jump in, but you're not jumping with all of yourself, then it's just a temporary change. And that's also fine. That's just an experience that you needed to have. So that's fine too. But what transformation gives you is the empowerment to be that change, to live it, to smell it, to eat it, to walk it, to run it, and to completely and totally embrace it, and embrace that part of yourself that you've hitherto not explored. And that's the reason why I say there's a difference between transformation and change, because you can also, like Rumi, say, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. And this is the difference between change and transformation. I think Rumi sums it up so beautifully. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make it as clever as I was. But today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. Well, how do you feel about this Rumi quote, Pete?
Oh, we've actually got that on a sign on our catering trailer for festivals. That one and yeah. So Rumi, there's so many beautiful sayings with Rumi. That one and yes, the only thing I can do for you is work on myself, and the only thing you can do for me is work on yourself. So that was another one which we love. I kind of love, embrace, and aspire to walk that talk. So I think it's a beautiful, beautiful saying in terms of. I would say that's a lot to do with programs and distraction from ourselves. But let's just say if we're not seeing it in our immediate environment from our surroundings, friends, parents, then we tend to copycat. So yes, if education and parents were more educated and it was in schools, that how important that is, rather than getting distracted about being clever, really, we would I'm sure we would be a much more better species on this planet. So I think it's a beautiful saying. I use it a lot. So yes, and then it comes to really working on ourselves. When I first heard them two sayings, I must admit I was like, in my program mind, it's just like, wow, that's really selfish. I look back and it took me quite a few years to kind of should I say embrace that and get that saying. Because of my program, I had to peel away. And then what I realized in the end is by changing myself, whoever comes to me, or to me, whoever I meet, they're meeting me. What's the best we can do for anyone else? This is, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing everyone can do for each other is be as present as they can, so they can meet you in your presence. That's the gift. The literally hand presence is just the externalization of that, really. There's nothing still wrong with that. However, the gift in my mum or my sister coming, I can't wait to share that, the energy field of that person. This is where we come back alive, and if we work with them sayings, we would all be much more alive, and can't wait to meet each other, on a more vibrant level. So it's a beautiful saying, very beautiful.
Thank you for that. So, I actually think and believe and feel and have lived this change all my life. From when I was a child, I knew that the world was fine as it is. And what I needed to do was to change myself. So when I came across it, I was absolutely delighted. Now, what are we talking about here when I say transformation versus change? So, a lot of people think that in order, when they're clever, what they want to do is to change the world. And this specifically is true of politics, especially today. So many people think if we change the politics or the politicians, we'll get the changes that we need. I'm here to say that in order to get the changes we need, we have to change ourselves, because the outside and the outer community reflects exactly what's going on within ourselves, within our homes, within our communities. So if we constantly getting the same kind of politicians, or even politicians that are going even more further away from what we say we want, if we create the change within our own selves and our own lives, we will have politicians that reflect that. The politics of the day is reflected on the extent to which we are willing to do the work of transformation within ourselves. Otherwise, it reflects how stuck we are, how resistant we are to our own the changes we all also make, and so we're demanding it to be done on the outside, and so the internal work must be done. Very important. Why? Because your beliefs become your thoughts become your words then become your actions, and your actions become your habits now become your own values, and your values now become your own destiny. And I really want to thank Mahatma Gandhi for this, because this is what politics shows us, and that's what politicians prove to us. You have to become your values, because your values become your destiny. And so that is why everything on the outside, including politics, then reverberates that to you and to us. So stop focusing on politics so much and focus on changing and becoming what it is you want to see in the outer world. So Tagore said, let us not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless when facing them. And this is the gift I'd like to give to everyone who sees this today. Please share this with people in your life, because this might be exactly what they need to know. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now that's bringing up a tremendous amount of fear, and it's dangerous. But as Tagore said, let us not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless when facing them, which is again is another route for transformation, is another opportunity to really enter into the full transformation of letting go of fear. Because as actually you reminded us, Pete, what is the definition of fear?
Oh yeah, there's a few, but false evidence appearing real. I mean, they're beautiful. Shall I carry on or just leave it there for a sec? False evidence appearing real.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So, can you give us some examples of false evidence appearing real in your own sphere of living, and in whether today or in the past, or what you've seen for yourself with the rest of us in society?
Well, in terms of when you mention politicians, in terms of a reflection of us, so we're in a bad state of affairs, or have been for a while. Things are changing, and to be optimistic, but ultimately, you know, be accountable, be sovereign, and why wait for any savior? We can get caught up in the feeding, basically, like a pop star. What makes a pop star? The public. So the feeding of a politician, and we've been played. It's media wars, media game. So in terms of a battle for our minds. So the question was, bring me back to the question.
Well, that's okay. If it's the question is not important. It's what
Oh,
you
sure. Yeah, fear. When I realized, looking back in retrospect, lots of people are sensitive. There's different types of sensitivity, and or empathic, whatever we want to see. It's not nothing special. I think we all come into this world very, our senses majority of the time, um, more awake, should I say, or more clear, clean. So through my life, I would say I was that type of person. But as I witnessed with my children, we all become conduits of the environment, of what is around, and then when we really recognize that, we can look at why some of our behavior was a certain way, or whether we might have been a wild kid, or whatever interpretation we may have had. And of course, there's lots of trauma in our family, and in families. So I realized I kind of buried my head, really, in terms of whatever you can pick from hundreds of different formats that are there to choose from, which I would say disconnects, can disconnect. So which are classed as normal. So I would say I buried my head anyway, around 17, 18 years ago, a wake up call, felt like my 9 lives was up, literally. So I changed from that point. And then as I was changing or transforming, making the transition, I realized what a sad example I had come of myself, of what I knew of myself. And I would have never have known that part of myself if this certain incident safe wake up call had never happened. So as I was journeying over the few years, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm riddled with the fear, and then what is fear, so I spent a few years working with my dreams and protocols, and I was my Jinshin Jiatsu practice, and being, experimenting. Right, I'm going to jump. So I'd jump into them. And, a term I would use, there's a double meaning to, kind of a double meaning, warrior and warrior, So I was the WO, and I see a lot of people are, and then it's like I could not believe it. So I worked on that over years, and it might even be the program of bills, or the tax bill and this and that. And it was just ridiculous. So, I challenged them, or challenged whoever it may be. I when I was 16, didn't realize that up to that age, I was quite connected. I didn't realize how connected I was. I think once again, nothing special. Everyone has the connectedness to them. I mean, beautiful that you had that connection from the sounds like from go, I'm going to look back in retrospect. I would say I did, but we had so much trauma going on in the family. So me, I was busy watching out potentially who might have been bullied from, who might have got a beating from, where's my next meal coming from. So I got a bit busy on that. So, but hey, blessings to that life, what I chose. So I realized in terms of, yes, recognizing it was just riddled with fear. And, it's just programs. It's a mindset, so my mind had been well infiltrated, well programmed up to the eyeballs. And as the saying you just said from Gandhi, the bottom one is before you know it, you believe that's who you are. So I had to defraggle that like a computer. I use a phrase as well. We come into this realm, reality, from birth, and with no firewall, no the parents, hospitals. It's just there's no firewall. So we're getting attachments, this stuff coming on us from day one. So if we don't have a good firewall or a process, or the parents knowing how to work with certain bangs, knocks, traumas that even the child may have from birth, even in the womb, but just to say from birth onwards. So there's a reason for that. You don't want really awake critical thinkers. So they were many. I'm just gonna say fear of fear. I remember I was in this workshop when I was about 30. I had visited India and stuff like that, and I just popped to an ashram, etc. And what's your biggest thing? And I remember saying, what's your biggest fear? I'm like, fear. I mean, what? How crazy. So that was my mindset. So to come out of that mindset to where I am now, I can laugh at myself, and it's because that was a self of me that is not me. So many fears. I mean, it's just honestly nonsense, and things still pop up here and there. It's not saying I'm have no fear. I think I'm going to say blessed, really, to not forget where I've come from and not forget them experiences. And some people could see that as a curse. I just transform it. It's just like, well, it makes me who I am, and it makes me able to relate to people on that same level. So that's being an authentic part of me. So rather than put a negative on, waking up, catching that thought, thought that should be gone by now. But it's like, well, whatever. And so I've had many fears, but we are caught up in the fear. That's all part of keeping us in the a kind of mindset of whether politicians, economy, lower class, middle class, culturally, women, and it's very endemic in the psyches of different societies. So specific fears, I'm just going to say I've practically a lot of them, many, so and so yeah, I love that saying, to be fearless, really. And then when you realize that, you have started to kind of take control, be accountable. You're taking back it's a big thing of sovereignty. What's true sovereignty? That's true sovereignty. And then there's communities and groups. Many people try and start up these, and I have so much admiration for anyone working on themselves. But if they don't know them two phrases, in terms of there's nothing, I can do for you apart from work on myself, and vice versa. And once I was clever and being wise, and if they haven't embodied that, then it's an it show.
You mentioned sovereignty. I want to actually bring up something here about sovereignty as well. So you're very hard to control when you're healthy. And this is why this is called being healthy. You're hard to manipulate when you're clear. To be healthy, you've got to practice clarity, and you're very hard to influence when you're sovereign. Really important to know this. This is what I teach all my clients, is to be healthy, because then you're hard to be controlled by anyone else. It's also hard for anyone to manipulate you, or for you to manipulate yourself also, when you practice clarity. And it's really hard. You're very difficult to be influenced by anyone else when you actually practice sovereignty of yourself, whether it's your body, your life, your lifestyle. And this is really important to know. So, what do we all get from this? How do we become transformative? How do we create transformative life? First of all, we got to learn to be patient with ourselves. And then we have to go on to the phase where we realize that we are the magic of the entire universe. Everything that exists in the universe exists within us. So we are the carriers of the seeds of the universe. And then we start working and getting coaching, going to festivals, going around people, making sure that we are practicing a lifestyle that will actually nurture us on this path to our own unfolding. But then the unfolding must happen at our own rhythm. It cannot be that or your unfolding is the same as your sisters or your best friends. We all have a different path and different timings in life. So try not to push anything and to be patient with yourself. That's why the first thing you see in this image I have here is for you to first be patient with yourself. That is something that needs to be developed and learned. This really is something that you ought to be learning. And when you actually hire a coach, that what they ought to be coaching you is how to actually be clear. And when you have clarity, you can then be patient with yourself. You also must learn to unfold, because you're the magic of the universe unfolding in its own rhythm. And that is something that if you're signing up for anything at all, you ought to really find out how will this fit into this model. This is really important. And I congratulate all of you who are really using the time of your time here, the time spent in life, transforming yourself. When you transform yourself, then the outer world transforms and mirrors it as well. So, Pete, we're going to go into now another phase of this live stream where I'm asking for you to actually recount the most transformative experience that has really impacted you, not whether in your own life or in others, or a story of transformation that you have heard that has stuck with you. I'm going to start by telling you of a story of transformation of this gentleman who was quite obese, very obese. And he wanted to change that, but he would not give up what he loved to eat, specifically what he ate at dinner time. And and I have a whole thing about dinner time too, but we'll go into that another time. And he just wanted more than anything else to continue eating what he loved to eat, but not be fat and obese and sickly all the time. So this was not a client of mine. I want to make that clear from the beginning. He was not a client of mine. So he went and he signed up for a fasting course and he learned how to fast. And during the fast, he was absolutely astounded at the difference that not eating made in his life. It wasn't just a change, it was transformational. It was ground shattering. And he became hooked on fasting, but he was also hooked on dinner time and the things that he loved to eat for dinner. So he, on his own, came up with a strategy. Now, I am not giving you the strategy. I'm not saying you're to do this. I'm just telling you of the most transformative story I've ever heard in my life. And what he decided to do is he would eat the meal that he loved at dinner time, and then for 3 days thereafter, he would fast. He would break the fast in a way that I would never have taught him to or recommended to anyone by eating the same dinner that he absolutely loved and enjoyed. He did this for months. 3 days fast. One evening, he would eat the meal that he loved so much. Then he'd fast again for 3 days. He not only lost a lot of the waste in his body, but people did not recognize him the way that he looked. He was a totally different person, not because he had slimmed down only, but because everything about him had changed. His aura, his whole presence of being had changed, all from doing what instinctively he thought was right for him. It works for him. At least it's working for him until now. Will it always work for him? I do not know, but that's the power of transformation, because you become very clear and your instinct takes precedence, and then you become a person who live according to their instinct and you do what works for you. It's not what worked for the rest of society. Of course, he had a lot of opposition to living his life this way as it was their life. I don't understand why anybody would be opposing him when he was really thoroughly enjoying it. And he was a whole different person. Just looking at him, he was a whole different person. His digestion was working a whole lot better. And he himself was absolutely thrilled with himself. So that's the story of transformation that really impacted my own memory and that stuck with me this whole time. What is the story of transformation you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have so many. So I'm going to briefly touch on one, which was 18 years ago, where I had a big fire in a workshop stroke. We made music engineer rooms, just an engineer room for music, and just creating a creative space. So that was such a transformative time. And, going through the trauma, I had been a year into Jinshin Jiu-Jitsu. Sounds like a martial art, but it's just, you can lay down, sit around and just hold the mudras and do different sequences. So that enabled me to helps you to clear energy, clear any stagnation. So I've been doing it for a year, and then the next day I just automatically did some flows, Jinshin flows, a bit of the practice, and then I relived the whole experience, trying to pull out cars, fire dripping down, and I'm wiping it off, and it's a bit of burnt polythene, burn marks on my face, etc. I had my youngest son, he was 17, 18 there at the time, helping out. So from that experience, I relived the whole experience, literally relived it the next day in this semi-dream state. and just cleared whatever potentially was stuck. Went through a bit of tears and then joy, tears, joy. And then after that experience, literally, I don't know, I was 3 months into the raw food, into the raw living food. So I was on that journey. So that just really fast tracked me more on this journey. Whether I was not going fast enough, I'm going to sort of say that. And going back into old patterns, I would say that too. Putting some old blocks in again. And let's just say my energy flow or my new life was more powerful than the old. So I'm grateful for that whole experience. And then that set me to where I am now. I did want to share another one though. I've had my elder sister, I said it incorrect last time. My elder sister, who was potentially 33, 34, I was about 28 at the time. Now that had an amazing impact on me. I had done certain practices and groups before that. So that got me reversed in terms of my dream, my awareness of myself. And then I had an amazing experience there. It was amazing. So it's my first true experience of death where, feeling the presence of my sister and coming in my dreams. Some people could think I'm nuts. But literally in my dreams is as if I'm talking here or talking to you, Doreet, or talking to my partner here. So I had so much confirmation about death, or I'm going to say more closer to the real experience of death. So can you imagine that's going to, your closest, your big sister meant so much to you and she's come to you and you're having this conversation with her. So and she was sharing me so much, so that was a massive shift. I'm going to share you another experience when I was 19. Can you imagine, you're with your partner and, the partner's pregnant and you go for a mortgage on marriage. We chose to go for the mortgage, big support from my mum and family. And then, whole new life. So that was transforming actually. The baby's name was Danielle. So she was a major transformation actually. And my ex-partner would agree on that in our lives and where we went from there. So you can imagine, regular checkups. You have to kind of drop in here. The room's all done. We knew she was a girl, all the lovely things. And imagine you're only 19. She might have been 20. And then she goes for her last checkup and they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. So even though it sounds traumatic, and it was traumatic at the time. So, and she had to go through the natural birth. So then you end up, I'm there having to support her in that, support us in that the best we can. And, and there's other babies being born in the ward and everything like that. And then you're going home to this room. So that was traumatic, and that was, very, traumatic, but life-changing, transformative experience for me, potentially different how my partner might have dealt with it over the years, but so transformative. Why? Because another experience of taking things, can take things just for granted, So it got us more closer to appreciating children, appreciating life, both of them experiences. But with our first, Danielle, that's all I'm going to say she needed to do. And maybe this world was too harsh for her. We can have many different potential reasons. And I don't really need to know. I just need to release whatever I may have got stuck in, or how it may have affected me from that experience. So yeah, I've got lots to share around that, but it's quite deep for people, but hopefully I don't trigger too many people there, but it was, we come out the other end. I've come out the other end, and it's such a beautiful experience. So I've shared with people who have had similar experiences, and from that experience, I can be empathic and I can share, and see us so caught up in trauma and just share my experience in that moment with that person. I don't kind of run the same rhetoric, I'd be, should I say, more empathic in that moment, uniquely. So both of them have been super free. I said there, free, have been super transformative for me, transformational experiences for me. Some people, you could look at them, they're a bit gloomy people, but actually they were amazing, because it sort of shifts your reality and your belief system about us just being in physical meat form, just flesh here. So it's very goes on the metaphysical, but that's something I've had all my life from very early, and learned to embrace and integrate more now, and just see things for what they are, and be more in acceptance that there are many things going on apart from just what we may think. So that was very transformational.
Thank you for that, Pete. So you said that, we take these things for granted, I think the reason why we take things for granted, experiences for granted, is because we take ourselves for granted. And that's the huge transformation, is when we no longer take ourselves for granted. And I think that's what each and every one of us ought to aim for, when we actually look not just to change something or change anything in our lives, but for us to be transformed. Then we don't have anything else to be changed, because we have been transformed already. And so we are now at a place where we begin to realize that we can detach, where detachment becomes much easier. The outcome is not what we chase. The outcome is not what we fear, but we have detached from the outcome because we now care about ourselves. And with that, I want to thank Pete, and for our listeners and our viewers today. Thank you for tuning in and giving us your time. And I trust that you will get something out of this that will assist you in leading to your own transformation. If not, tune in again next week. Please share that. You never know with whom you are really in assisting in their lives, because everyone is on a path that none of us is even aware of. And it's really important to share with them things that will help them towards transformation in their own lives. Thank you, everyone. See you all next week, same time, with some special guests we have from the